Just like PC gaming, Android is evolving at an incredible pace, and of course many games released today won't run well on less powerful phones, and the truth is not everyone has over 40 gigabytes of free storage to install a game. With that in mind, I made this list especially for those who love RPGs but don't have a very modern smartphone. So as you've already seen from the title, make sure to leave a like and let's get started. If this game doesn't run on your phone, then honestly almost no other game will. Let's talk about Soulstone of Life. This game was released in 2013, making it a very old Android title that ended up being reworked and is now available to play again. The story revolves around the legendary Stone of Life, a stone with ancient powers that was responsible for a great war in the past. After thousands of years of peace, an evil force called Necrosis returns to try to take control of this power, and it's up to the player to prevent a new conflict from destroying the world. I really like this style with pixel art graphics combined with an isometric perspective. I'm sure that if this game were released today, it would probably be much more successful than it is now, because nowadays you could say that this game is almost forgotten on the Play Store. A turn-based RPG with that old school style. If you enjoy this type of game, you definitely need to know about it. Let's talk about Vampire Fall 2. The story takes place around 200 years after the events of the first game. In this new world, vampires have taken over most of humanity, turning humans into slaves or even food. But the really interesting part is that right at the beginning, your character also ends up becoming a vampire. Now you have to decide whether you will join the vampires or help the human race. The game features an impressive open world along with many dialogues for you to read and make choices that will determine the path your character will follow. And of course, it also brings that classic turn-based RPG style that many old school RPG fans love. A game that is completely lost on the Play Store and totally free. Let's talk about White Flame. This is probably the first game on our list that is an action RPG where you actually have to fight and attack the enemies that appear in front of you. The interesting part is definitely the story. You play as a character who ended up shipwrecked on an island and now needs to find a way back home. The game gives you a lot of freedom to explore the island where you land, as well as several others around it. On these islands, you'll find many monsters to defeat, equipment to collect, and even mystical creatures to fight. The combat system works really well, and it's definitely a very underrated game on the Play Store. If you enjoy tactical RPGs with a lot of story and of course plenty of character customization, you're going to love this game. Let's talk about World of Kung Fu. World of Kung Fu is an open world RPG inspired by ancient China, where you explore different regions, learn new martial arts styles, take part in clan wars, and develop your character without being locked into a traditional class system. It's a little known game, but it has many ideas that were ahead of its time. This is one of those cases of an RPG, or maybe even a game in general, that has much more content than it seems. You might judge the game because of its simple graphics, but it actually has a huge amount of content for you to enjoy for many hours without stopping. Definitely one of the most well-known games on our list, but even so, many people don't even know it exists. Let's talk about ZENONIA. Unfortunately, on the Play Store, you can only find ZENONIA 4 and ZENONIA 5. Both are very interesting games to play with a full story mode, different classes, a world to explore, and they are definitely some of the most classic RPGs on Android. But I'll tell you something you might not know. Someone made ports or remasters of the older ZENONIA games, and you can find them on Reddit. I think it's fair to say that ZENONIA is the father of many RPGs that came after it, and it's a shame that nowadays the series has been so forgotten, isn't it? This is a game that has been available on the Play Store since 2012, and honestly I have never seen anyone talk about it. Let's talk about Partia. The game takes place on the continent of Partia, in a kingdom formed by the unstable union of two rival nations, the Gran and the Anas. This alliance was created through the marriage of an ancient king, but the tension and prejudice between the nobles of both sides never truly disappeared. The game is very similar to Advance Wars. I don't know if you've ever played that game, but instead of controlling just one character in a turn-based style, you command an entire army and have to face another army. One really interesting thing is that it's not just a single game, but there are actually 4 games and they all follow the same story, and surprisingly almost nobody knows about this series on the Play Store. I think that when it comes to 3D graphics, this is one of the best games and also one of the oldest ones on our list. Let's talk about Raid: Shadow Legends. Yes, I know the game looks incredibly beautiful and it really does have impressive graphics, but it's worth remembering that this game was released back in 2016, so it should run on almost any type of smartphone. This is one of the most classic turn-based RPGs on Android, maybe one of the first games that helped create the style we see so much today. For example, you have millions of different characters that you can add to your team, and I'm serious, there are a lot of characters. It also has an almost strategy-like system where you need to improve your kingdom along with a huge amount of progression options to upgrade your characters. This was also an old game on the Play Store, but it ended up receiving a remaster and recently made a comeback. Let's talk about RIMELANDS Hammer of Thor. The game stands out by mixing a steampunk setting with Norse mythology and using a very unique combat system based on dice rolls. Battles take place in turns on an invisible grid. Whenever you attack or defend, the game rolls virtual dice to determine whether the action was successful, the amount of damage dealt, or if the attack was blocked. In the game, you play as a treasure hunter who is searching for an ancient technology hidden inside lost dungeons. However, she ends up becoming involved in a conspiracy connected to Thor's hammer. RPG Alter Age is a retro pixel art JRPG published by the famous Kemco, and let's talk about it now. The protagonist is Arga, a young man who trains tirelessly to surpass his own father, who is considered the strongest man in the world. During his journey, he awakens a special ability called Soul Alter. With this power, you basically have 3 different versions of your character: the adult form, the child form, and the young form. Each one completely changes the way you fight, which is honestly a really creative idea. Outside of combat, the child form allows you to access narrow paths across the map and accept exclusive quests for children. The game also features an ingredient collection and cooking system. One of the craziest games on our list is definitely an RPG, but surprisingly it's an RPG about fishing. Let's talk about Sea Fantasy. The story follows 2 young adventurers who set out on a journey to capture the mysterious sea as creatures that live in oceans and lakes. I don't think it makes much sense at first because yes, the game is literally an RPG focused on fishing. Honestly, it is pretty strange, but once you get used to it, it becomes quite interesting. The game's biggest differences are its combat system, the fishing mechanics, and the open world. You can sail your boat wherever you want, and there are many different locations filled with NPCs and side quests. It's a very well-made game. Now let's talk about an RPG released back in 2012. It's a very old game that will probably run on just about any smartphone. Let's talk about Earth and Legend. There are a lot of different features in this game, and one of the most interesting is its day and night cycle. It uses a real-time system where 24 minutes equals 24 hours in the game world. So the world changes from day to night, and the weather can vary quite a bit. As you can see, you have complete freedom to explore, take on side quests, swim, fish, buy supplies, and explore the world however you want. The game also has a really nice pet system and a solid skill tree. It's an extremely complete RPG that has made its way back to the Play Store. I'm currently playing this game and I can tell you that it's surprisingly addictive. Let's talk about GRIMGUARD. This is a game that mixes a roguelike with a tactical RPG. The game features a monster invasion and a very well developed story where you need to control different characters to put an end to this threat. However, the truth is that the game also uses this story as a way to place you against many different characters. The movement system is one of the most important parts of the gameplay, as you usually control up to 3 characters on a board and need to defeat all the enemies through 10 waves to reach the end. At the same time, while the game can be quite complex, it manages to have simple mechanics that are easy to understand and easy to play. This is a port that recently arrived on mobile and didn't get much attention, probably because it's a pretty niche game. Let's talk about Guards 2. Guards 2 is a turn-based tactical RPG that breaks the traditional rules of strategy. To make a move, all you have to do is swap the positions of 2 heroes. It's a simple mechanic that opens up countless tactical possibilities and requires smart planning. The idea is to control a team of up to 4 characters and of course defeat as many enemies as possible. The game is very complete with more than 8 characters that you can add to your team. On top of that, its progression trees are highly strategic, and it also features endless modes that let you keep playing for as long as you want. You could even call this an idle RPG since it's much easier to level up and offers almost endless progression. Let's talk about LEVELUP RPG. This game doesn't have much of a story. You control a single character, defeat monsters, and see how far you can progress. The nice thing is that everything is very intuitive. It's easy to figure out where to go and which monsters you need to defeat, although the game still has its own level of challenge. I'm not exactly sure how far the progression goes in terms of levels or character skills, but I'd say it feels like a classic RPG that's a bit more accessible than most. This is an MMORPG that took a long time to finally make its way to Android. Let's talk about NAICA Reborn. The game takes place on the continent of Lazul, featuring multiple regions filled with quests, villages, creatures, and secrets scattered across the map. It doesn't lock you into rigid systems like fixed classes or races. You can customize your character however you like, and even your equipment can completely change the way you play. The game also features a very well-designed dungeon system where you'll level up and earn better equipment. On top of that, there's an open world with multiple cities to explore. It's a very complete modern MMORPG that's definitely worth checking out. This game is also extremely lightweight and will probably run on almost any type of smartphone. Let's talk about Caves of Lore. The story takes place in the world of Salmeria, more specifically on the island of Springhold. You control Lannon, a young man who discovers an ancient mystery hidden inside the caves beneath a small village. After that, you decide to investigate what is really happening. This is another case of a game that has much more content than it seems, giving you plenty of reasons to keep playing for hours and hours. One of the best parts is definitely the story. Even though the game is not linear, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, and explore the map however you like. Besides that, there are many characters that you can collect and add to your team, and they can completely change the way you play the game. It's a little difficult to talk about this game because it already starts with the third entry, so you end up missing a lot of things. Let's talk about Chaos Rings 3. This is a game that is kind of lost on the Play Store, and from what I researched, it originally came from the Nintendo 3DS. The game follows a young adventurer who dreams of exploring the mysterious planet Marble Blue, a place filled with ancient ruins, giant monsters, and legendary treasures. The adventure begins on a small island, but it quickly turns into an epic journey full of twists and mysteries. The biggest highlight of Chaos Rings 3 is its semi-open world, divided into several explorable areas. As you progress through the story, you unlock more characters and also more ways to evolve your own character. When talking about RPGs on the Play Store, of course we need to have a game that is similar to Pokemon. Let's talk about COROMON. The game feels a lot like the classic Pokemon games from Nintendo, such as Fire Red, especially when it comes to the graphics. The story follows a young person searching for their missing father while discovering and capturing different Coromons. Along the way, they uncover a complicated conspiracy. If you think this game is just a Pokemon copy, you're completely wrong. The game features more than 10 different cities to explore, along with over 300 different Coromons to discover. There is a lot of content to explore, especially when it comes to the main story. Speaking of the main story, it's said that the game offers more than 30 hours of gameplay. This game is extremely new, which is probably why it doesn't have many downloads on the Play Store yet. Let's talk about Crawl Tactics. Just like the name suggests, this is basically a tactical RPG that also plays a lot like a roguelike. The goal is to defeat increasingly difficult enemies as you progress through each stage. There's not much complexity to it, but it works really well as an RPG. I think one of the most interesting parts of the game is the variety of characters. You'll usually control up to 4 characters at once while facing dozens of enemies. On top of that, the game features some really interesting choice-based mechanics that can completely change the course of a battle. Perhaps one of the funniest games on our list, and also one of the lightest, is Doom and Destiny. The game tells the story of 4 friends who suddenly find themselves in a world of magic and fantasy. I mean, the fun part is that they know exactly how these kinds of worlds work, so they constantly make jokes about it. The dialogue is interesting from start to finish and often genuinely funny. They arrive in this world as heroes who must defeat the Demon King. But before they can do that, they'll need to grow stronger, master their abilities, and explore the fantasy world around them. It's a fun game both because of its story and its gameplay, and it's definitely worth checking out. It's a little funny to talk about this game because it has so many RPG features and is incredibly complete. Let's talk about Ninth Dawn Remake. This game is very lightweight, and that's impressive because this remake has improved graphics and even more features, yet it still runs great on low-end devices. It's the kind of RPG that doesn't have a traditional story mode. Instead, it gives you complete freedom to explore and build your character however you want. There are plenty of different quests for you to complete, but none of them are mandatory. You can also level up your character, meet different NPCs, explore dungeons, and discover the game's open world. This is the kind of game that gives you total freedom to do whatever you want. Maybe the first and only online game on our list. Let's talk about an action RPG called ACHROMA Tides. The craziest thing about this game is that you actually play play it with your phone held vertically, and it's an extremely smooth and fast game to play. If you just look at it, you might think it's a normal RPG where you're in a menu, then you go out, defeat some monsters, and return to the menu to upgrade your character. However, many people don't know that it is also a roguelike. The challenge of the game is to survive the 10 waves and make it all the way to the end. What really stands out is definitely the combat system, along with the completely different characters you can use, and surprisingly, playing with your phone held vertically doesn't make the combat any worse. You can say I'm crazy, but I really love the graphics of this game. It's kind of a very beautiful pixel art style. Let's talk about Battle Souls, another game on our list that mixes an RPG with roguelike elements. The goal of the game is to make it through the waves, survive, and evolve your characters along the way. The main objective is to defeat the villains, but to be honest, the game doesn't really have much of a story mode. The cool part is that you can have up to 4 characters on your team, and each one of them changes the way you play quite a lot. The gameplay is simple in theory, but at the same time, it can be quite complex. And that's it for today's list. I hope you discovered some amazing RPGs that you didn't know about. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more hidden games. See you in the next one.